still looking for it.
One other thing about timetable and trailer operations compared to CTC. Timetable and trailer is cheap.
Yes.
A little bit of design time on a computer, a little bit of printing, and you're in business. You don't need signal detection and scale signals and miles of wire and any of that stuff. And so it's a way into a really realistic form of operation that doesn't cost an arm and a leg.
There's another aspect to it as well, and that is that Andy mentioned the Allegheny Midland, which got branded the Appalachian version of the Northeast Corridor, because every time somebody was standing around, they'd say, well, why don't you add another coal extra or something? And this isn't exactly a function of timetable and train order, but if you're modeling a prototype, you have to pick a base city. I picked Frankfurt, and all the times of trains in and out of Frankfurt are the way they really work. You can look at a prototype timetable. Everywhere else, as you go out from that town, the times change from the prototype because the distances are compressed. But in one place, everything is exactly the way it was. So you don't get into this creating things just to keep people busy. And the timetable is your Bible. You know, this is the way it was, the book of rules was like this, the special instructions are this way. And all you really have to do is just copy them. And this again is what I said about prototype modeling is easy. Bill Darnaby had to invent train numbers. Are they 50 series or 60 series or 80 series? I mean, you know, there's all the stuff you got to do. Well, he essentially recreated the nickel plate timetable is what he did. I mean, I don't know that he planned it that way, but when I go to the Maumee, it's a very familiar railroad. There's 2 passenger trains a day, 1 each way and stuff like that, and 5 scheduled freights each way, and that's about it. But then there's extras and sections and all that. So that's another thing about timetable and train order is that if you look to the prototype, it's all laid out for you. And then somebody says, well, why don't we do this? No, they didn't do that. So, and Bill Darnaby made the comment one time, he said, when you come to a Maumee operating session, you may only get to run 1 train. And then he pauses and he says, but it'll be a doozy. And it will. You know, it may not. It may be a hot shot that flies over the railroad, but 9 times out of 10, there's going to be work to do, and there's going to be meets and all that kind of stuff. And it just, it's amazing, as Andy said, about how we've managed to recreate an interesting time in history in our basements and in garages or whatever. It's stunning how realistic this stuff really is. And I've had guys that ran the nickel plate, at least one, that came over and ran this railroad, and they were right at home with it, which is the acid test.
There's one other thing that I did. I was lucky. I both spending time with the agent there in West Carroll, and also I had a friend that was in the traffic department for the New York Central, and that's where I got the procedure books and ideas, and I was talking to him. So trains were scheduled for like arrival. Some had left that night from trying to be in Chicago by a certain time, so there was some fleeting of trains at certain times of the day, and also really near the New York Central, I could see at times of the day you just had one train after another, and there's laws. So actually, the B&O wasn't any constant flow, or to make it easier or anything. We had trains that either were making connections or had to arrive at certain destinations for like an early morning arrival or a midnight arrival so they could deliver to the customers the next day. So you kind of got to think of what the traffic would be when it's generated, where it needs to be. He gave me a lot of clues that way.
Moving along. Mike, all of us in this room are looking for the next legends of model railroading. You're getting around the country and perhaps internationally, you see a lot of these guys, you meet with these groups. Where are we going to find our next legends? Where are we going to find these guys? Who's doing model railroading that we should start to emulate? No habla español?
I'm thinking.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, that's, it is interesting how there are fads in model railroading
kind of fads, you know. For a while, it was all Appalachian coal. And then it was, yeah, that was his fault. And then it was, well, I don't know when, but it was, then I remember at some point, the prairie flatland everywhere got very popular. Because Batavia figured out how you could model a flatland railroad by making very narrow bench work and putting up view blocks everywhere, putting up backdrops everywhere. And you know, logging continues to be very popular, although, don't take this the wrong way, but I don't know why. Because the equipment's fantastic, but I can't figure out what there is to appeal about the operation very much. You know, the operations, because they're cutting down logs and they're taking them, they're dumping them in the river, and you can't really dump them in the river, and you can't really float them down, so I don't get it. So, but anyway, logging, narrow gauge is always fantastic. And that's grown in popularity because of Bachman having this great idea about using HO train set track with these cool 148 models. You know. So that's grown quite a bit. And you know, where's the next big thing going to come from? I don't know. Of course, right now the big thing is DCC and sound, and that's kind of you know, no point buying a locomotive unless it's already got sound in it, and you hope that it sounds pretty good. And you'll know how it sounds because everybody runs them at full volume. And I don't know who's going to come along or what's going to come along. I haven't noticed. I love all of it really when you get right down to it. And I enjoy, you know, I enjoy operating on almost anybody's layout. I could name a couple I didn't enjoy, but I won't mention. Well, they were fun. Never mind.
This is what's left of my table. Got not quite half of it gone, but I got a few hours left. We'll see what happens. There's a lot more back there.